Welcome to another episode of Life and Whiskey. As always, I'm Jordan, and yes, so we are not doing Freeland Spirits. That's what this bottle is from. I just like the naked woman on the bottle, so hey, forgive me. I turned this into my poor man's Pappy bottle, and poor man's Pappy, for those of you who are unaware, is a combination of 60% Weller 107 and 40% Weller 12. Now I paid $55 and change for this bottle of Weller 107, and I paid $36 and change for this Weller 12. Made the combination, put them in here. This has been sitting in here since the last week of October. So it's been around a bit. It's had plenty of time to meld together. And if you're watching these videos in order, I'm doing a batch shoot. This is video number 3. The first one was the Bib and Tucker, then this, now this. And as I was doing cleanup on the last video, finished the last sip of the Weller 12, and I will say, by sip number whatever it was, 4 or 5, and 10 minutes into it, that bitterness finally relaxed a bit that I was talking about on it. That sharp, bitey, acrid, bitter oakiness subsided, and more of the sweet, wheated bourbon flavors that you would expect kind of pushed through on the finish. So, this will be interesting to see where this goes. I don't know what to expect out of this, because I will say this. I drank this a week and a half after making it, and I thought it had plenty of time to blend together in that time frame. And this poor man's Pappy carried a lot of the bitter notes of this Weller 12 that I didn't really like. So much so that, in my opinion, kind of ruined what I was hoping to get. What I was hoping this would be was kind of ruined. I would have much rather just sat and drank the Weller 107 straight up as is, because this seemed to have drank every bit of what I wanted until I added this, and then it just kind of tainted it a little bit. So, there we go. The 60-40 split of poor man's Pappy here. And no, I don't have a Pappy bottle or anything, but like I said, naked woman, hard to go wrong with that, right? So, and I do like that this bottle has some heft to it. Like, this bottom is a serious bottom. They're really nice bottles. So Freeland, you did a great job with it. But so, like I said, $55 and change, $36 and change, 60% of this. So I don't know, if you did 60% of a Weller of $55. I don't know. Doing my math in my head, I'm not very good at. Let's say that's $40, and then 40% of $36. Half would be what, 18. So yeah, so like $13. So like combined price of Pappy for like $53. Okay, something like that. That's just kind of a goofy way of looking at it, I suppose. On the nose, it is Buffalo Trace. It is leaning hard into the Weller 107 nose profile, where it is sweeter, dark, rich caramel on the nose, mixed with the two notes that I will always and forever say Buffalo Trace to me on the nose are floral, like honeysuckle and, I don't know, lily, and then apple, like, or floral, like an apple blossom, and apple, like, so if you took apple blossom and honeysuckle and then mixed in a fresh cut honey crisp apple, that's the nose marker for me of what Buffalo Trace is. And then I get some rich caramel in there, little bit of confectioner sugar around the side, hint of oak, like freshly sawn oak, but a deep, dense caramel nose for sure. It just smells sweet. Like the base of it has this dense caramel sweetness to it. And that's coming from the 107 for sure, without a doubt. All right, let's get into it. First taste. And again, drank a fair bit of this already. I was not overly impressed with it, so we'll see how it hits today on camera after having had a couple of whiskeys already. And so this is the combination of 107 proof and 90 proof, so whatever that balances out to be. And it's 60% 107 and 40% 90. So if I were to take a guess at this, probably ringing in somewhere at like 97, 98 proof, something like that. If I'm taking a guess. Yeah, let's get into this. Very disappointed on the first sip. Very watery thin up front. There was almost no flavor for the first several seconds. Then it went into a light, simple, caramely syrup, like some kind of a drizzle, but very light in flavor. It was not what the nose led me to believe. It was not dense. It wasn't very rich. There was a little bit of a fruit note after that, a little bit of an apple, and then an oak that picked up. But this time, instead of what I remembered, and maybe most likely because having come off the heels of several oaky whiskeys, that's impacting what I'm tasting now. It is less oaky, less tannic, less bitter. Like I'm tasting oak, but it's not as bitter and as stringent as it was before. It's not as strong. So let me just put this in perspective. This tastes like Buffalo Trace at if you could get it for 80 proof. For watery thin, not a whole lot going on. A little bit of salt, a little bit of sweet notes, and a little bit of oak on the finish. So that's where I'm at on sip number one. Nosing number two, it hasn't changed much. This is another good marker for me with Buffalo Trace. On a second nosing, 5-10 minutes in, almost all of them, whether it's a high rye mash bill, a mash bill 2, or any of the other ones, wheated mash bill, it doesn't matter. They seem to, with time, turn into just these sugar daddy caramel bombs in the glass, which I always like, I want to drink that. I'm not a sweets person, but for some reason, when it comes to whiskey, I like sweeter whiskey. I don't necessarily want something bitter. When it comes to the oakiness, like if it can balance out oak and add to the flavor profile, awesome. But what I find is most oaky whiskeys tend to take that to the extreme where it goes bitter, and that's all that I'm left with in the finish. That's what I was finding in this Weller 12. So let's go back for another taste. Maybe something's developed here. So that time, the oakiness pushed forward in the flavor profile to be the first note that I got, and the last note that I'm getting. It moved up, but then it was quickly surrounded by the apple, the caramel, a little bit of that confectioner sugar. It kind of thinned out in the middle and almost watered down in the middle before switching into the finish on that, where a little bit of that ethanol came back and some of that oak came back, but not in. That was the main note, but it wasn't overpowering in a way that it was unpleasant. Coming from a person that doesn't particularly like that. So, I would say that this is different than the previous experiences that I've had with it. I'm liking it. It's still, if you're looking to do this just to have it, awesome. I'm glad I have it, right? I would much rather just stick with the 107 profile and enjoy this. The 12, again, if it wasn't $36, if this was $50 or $60, I probably would have had. But yeah, let's see what sip number 3 is. No, still the same. Suppose my audio probably sucks because that was blocking my microphone. You know, the sip number 3 brought that oak back, that bitter, acidic, bitey finish, and that's what it's sticking with. So similar to the 12, there's really only like 3 or 4 notes going on in there. I really think that the 12 impacted the 107 to the negative. The 107 is just a better dram kind of all the way around. Want to make sure that I'm not wrong about that. Well, I know I'm not wrong about that, but like just in the glass, it has more heft. This has a darker, richer caramel. It has that Buffalo Trace profile up in the top of my nasal cavity, and then just this base, dense caramel, sweet goodness that's really ringing through, brought forward by that ethanol. On the taste, it starts sweet, mid palate is fruity and sweet. Zero bitter oak on the back at all, even with the proof. Yeah, this is just way better. 107 is so much better. So there you go. Poor man's Pappy. If you see people raving about it, I mean, there's a bunch of things that could go into that, whether their nose and flavor profile just leans that direction. Maybe, let's see if there's a laser coat. There is, but I'm not going to be able to read that in this light. Yeah, I'm not going to be able to read that. L2516. L maybe? Something like that. Maybe 2025, Weller 12 just sucks. I don't know. It's quite possible if you watch other whiskey tubers, you'll see that they kind of crap all over Weller 12 as well as kind of being the bottom of the Weller lineup. I have to agree with them. It's just not that good, not worth any serious money. 36 bucks, sure, why not? I've had way worse whiskey for $40 or $50. So from that standpoint, why not? But if you're seeking to make a Pappy, that might be the best use of this, just to get rid of it. But the problem is then you're tainting good whiskey. So those are my thoughts. Drop in the comments down below. Are you able to find any of these? Are you able to find them at reasonable prices to where you would even consider making a poor man's Pappy out of them? If you've ever had poor man's Pappy, maybe you've had a better experience. Maybe that Weller 12 that you had was better. I don't know. Drop in the comments down below. I'm curious to hear what you have to say. Also, what can you find these bottles for in your area? At a combined total of what, $91? Sure, I'll spend $91 on something, to get 2 bottles of whiskey out of it. Yeah, why not? But if you're spending in the hundreds of dollars for these, that's going to be a hard sell. So, let me know about that. Let me know what your experience with poor man's Pappy is. And as always, thanks for watching. You guys have yourselves a great day. We'll catch you in the next video. I'm not sure what that's going to be, but it'll be one of these. We might switch directions here and go, and we'll do some Green Rivers back to back. So I think that's the direction we're going to go here. Now that we've kind of got through our oaky stuff, we've gotten through our Buffalo Trace allocated stuff. So we're going to switch and do those. Thanks for watching. You guys have yourselves a great day. Catch you in the next video.